Eins, zwei, drei, uno, dos, tres, ich in Sanchigo. Okay, we'll start. A lot of people commented on yesterday's with the let the goofy stuff go at the beginning.
We edited it just a little in the beginning.
We have a good time here. Okay, how many are not here yet, but you're coming soon? Okay, good enough. All right, good evening, folks. March 30th, Kent Hovind here and the crew at Dinosaur Adventureland in lovely Lenox, Alabama. We're the folks who believe the Bible is literally true and scientifically accurate, and the evolution theory is the dumbest and most dangerous religion in the history of the planet. Now, if you've ever visited Dinosaur Adventureland, and many have, we've had people from 55 countries and all 50 states, we are adding on to the Science Center a huge, huge, huge addition. You guys did an awesome job on that. Look at that. It is second floor, getting close. We've got to build the front wall there. And we got the concrete sidewalk out in only 5 pieces. It didn't come together in one piece like we thought, so we're going to put together a jigsaw puzzle to move that thing where we wanted it. Huh?
It was the thought that counts.
It's the thought that counts, right? We're going to put the flat side up, okay? And so we are adding on to the Science Center, and Ernie said, Brother Hovind, we're $30,000 maxed out on the card. We got to get some more money. So we can't proceed until we get, the credit card paid back. So if you got a bunch of money sitting around and want to help us, now would be a good time. We want to win souls and influence people for the Lord. We do everything ourselves. We're not trying to we do it as cheaply as possible. I think we do a good job with a real shoestring budget. There's our children's play area with their fossil dig pit where they can dig for fossils, and we show that they are not millions of years old. They have all kinds of fun stuff to do in the children's area. Put together the big dinosaur that we're adding on. There's our Bud Light. Used to be Bud Light, now it's sharing the light. We repurposed it. It used to be for the devil, now it's for the Lord. We have our space ball. How many of you have tried the space ball before? Anybody tried that? That will make you sick in minutes. Me anyway, I can't stand it. Let's see. And oh, by the way, guys, I moved the Noah's Ark about 4 feet and I got it repositioned. They need about 5 guys to help me put that tube back on. It's going to be twice as fast. We're going to have to get some more balls for the ball pit.
Okay.
So when the kid slides down, they get lost in there. Find them next Tuesday. Okay, anyway, that's our Noah's Ark. We have all kinds of fun stuff going on here. We just want to influence people to serve God and live for Him. Okay, let's see. If you'd like to join our 777 Club and help us to open for free, you can go out on our website, drdino.com, and right on the ribbon at the top, there's a little button that says Donate to CSE. And if you want to make any checks or become a monthly supporter, that would be great, but make any checks to CSE. We won't bother you ever. We will never send you a letter begging for more money. We tell folks, here's what we need. Right now, we need about 30 to get caught up and another 20 to finish the room. We've got to put the walls up and the concrete floor in and the lighting. And I had 4 giant air conditioners given to us, 3-ton and 4-ton air conditioners because they were dented. A friend of mine works at a warehouse and he's got them all for free. He said, Kent, you want these? I said, yeah. So we do. Trust me, we don't waste the money around here. Okay, we're in the book of Acts doing the Bible study. That's in the New Testament, which is everything after Jesus came. We call that the year 0, but technically our calendar's off quite a bit. But so here we are, the yellow stripe today, waiting for a little 7-year period to come up called this tribulation. Coming soon to a city near you. Folks, it is racing toward us. Can you see it in the news? Like, wow.
You can feel it.
You can feel it in the air. Like, see, Satan has always wanted to control the world. When God made Adam and Eve and they began worshiping him, he got jealous and said, they ought to be worshiping me. And all through history, it's been a battle between Satan and God, and we are living on the battlefield. Not a good place to be. Okay, so we're in the book. The first 4 books in the New Testament are called the 4 Gospels. Gospel means good news. It's the story of Jesus going out and doing his ministry, sharing the good news that God is finally now, instead of all through the Old Testament, they had to bring a lamb, bring a sacrifice every year. Plus, if you commit a certain sin, you got to bring another one in the middle of the year and say, priest, I sinned, But Jesus finished all that. It's done. He paid the final price. And so the good news is, wow, it's paid for. Salvation is free. It's by grace. I just accept it. Wow. Awesome. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, John are the 4 Gospels. Luke was a medical doctor who wrote the book of Luke. He later wrote the book of Acts, and we're studying the book of Acts right now. We went through chapter 1 through 22, so we're going to start on slide number 1093, and just should be a little short one tonight. We ended up chapter 22. On the morrow, because he would have known the certainty wherefore he was accused of the Jews. Remember, Paul was tied up by the Romans to protect him from the Jews. They were going to beat the truth out of him with a cat and flog him, scourge him. And he said, hey guys, I'm a Roman. Oh, whew. They dropped everything. He stood for his rights, okay, which people ought to be able to do, stand up for what's right. So he loosed him from his bands and commanded the chief priests and all their council to appear, and brought Paul down and set him before them. And Paul, earnestly beholding the council, said, men and brethren, I have lived in all good conscience before God until this day. Can you imagine somebody saying, basically, I've never sinned? Anybody here like that? I'll get your hand down, Hovind. Okay.
I wonder why he leaves out his period when he was killing Christians.
Well, see, in their mind, that was a good thing. That was a good thing to kill Christians. They're the ones that sent him out to do it. These are probably the same guys that stoned Stephen, and Paul was holding their coats back in Acts chapter 9 when they stoned Stephen. Paul was consenting. He was glad. Get rid of these Christians. So these guys might have known Paul this whole time. And the high priest Ananias commanded them that stood by him to smite him on the mouth. Now, if you tell the truth and you preach the truth, your people are going to hate you. Jesus said that when he was doing his ministry in Matthew 5. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye when men... By the way, I need to stop and interject a little theological dispute going on. The kingdom of heaven and the kingdom of God may not be the same. The kingdom might be on earth, the 1,000-year kingdom. I cover this in my book, What on Earth is About to Happen, for heaven's sake. If you are wondering about what's going on and what's happening and what this virus and all that, how long ago did I write this book? 2005. So, yeah.
25 years ago?
No. 5 years ago.
2006 you were...
2015 we published it. Yeah, okay. No, before that. Anyway, I spent 5 years working on this as a dissertation for another doctor's degree that I earned, and I had to change my theology. We're here for the tribulation, not for the wrath of God. If you want to get something that'll really give you something to concentrate on, my chart you can get for $10. It's all talking about the whole timeline of history, you know, the creation, the flood, and Jesus. That little yellow stripe we talked about is this great big 7-year period here called the tribulation. There's a whole lot of thought went into this chart, and on the back side is all kinds of the Bible verses from Daniel and Matthew, Mark, and Luke about this topic. When is the Lord coming back? I very reluctantly changed my position that I had believed and taught for 40 years about that Jesus can come any minute. There's songs in those songbooks back there. It can happen in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye. Soon and very soon, we're going to see the King. How many sang those kind of songs before? I believed it and loved it. I thought, man, Jesus, hope you come today. We're here for the tribulation, folks. It's going to get bad, and we're going to be here. So you might want to get ready and read up on it, study up on the topic. Anyway, we want to help you there. So he said, if you're persecuted for the kingdom of God, if you're persecuted for righteousness' sake, you get the kingdom of heaven. See, there is a kingdom on earth, a 1,000-year kingdom called the millennium. Milli means 1,000. Okay, like a millimeter has a thousandth of a meter. There's a millennial kingdom right here, the 1,000-year reign of Christ. Who gets to be here? Who gets to rule and reign with him during that 1,000 years? Not all the Christians get that. That's the bonus prize. See, a Christian has three things. You have your physical life of, say, 70, 80 years. Now, you could sin to the point where you lose that. God could say, look, you're my child, you're an embarrassment to the family, come on home to heaven, I can't trust you down there anymore. He may kill you as a Christian. We see that in 1 Corinthians 5. There was a man living in adultery with his father's wife. That would be his own mother or his stepmother at the best. Paul said, guys, the heathen don't even do this. Turn that man over to Satan for the destruction of the flesh, that the spirit may be saved. 1 Corinthians 5:5. He's still going to heaven. So you have your physical life, and you can sin to the point where you lose that. God will say, come on home. You're done. I can't trust you down there. The second thing you have is your promise of eternity in heaven. Now that you cannot possibly lose, because that was a gift of God. And it's by grace of Jesus. It's by grace through faith in what Jesus did, not what we do.
So is the same group reigning with this 1,000 years the same that'll be in the marriage supper of the Lamb?
Well, we'll get to that in a second. Okay, sequential thing here. So, Who gets to reign during that 1,000-year period? It's Revelation chapter 20 and 21 talk about this. Those who are martyred for their faith, they certainly get to be the rulers. They get the bonus prize. They gave up their life on earth for the Lord. He said, okay, I'm going to give you 1,000 more years here on the earth. You're going to be the governor of Alabama, or you're going to be the mayor of Lenox, or whatever. And that'd be a high, prestigious job, wouldn't it?
Thank you, Lord.
Do we even have a mayor? I don't think we do. I don't know. Anyway, 35 people. But so how you are, if you are persecuted for righteousness' sake, or especially if you're martyred for righteousness' sake, you get the bonus prize of the 1,000 years here on earth. Now, the third thing a Christian has is eternity in heaven, eternal heaven. That you cannot possibly lose. Paul said, I press for the mark for the prize of the high calling. He said, I don't know if I've attained that yet. So people confuse them. There's three things. You got your physical life. So if you've accepted Christ and you're in the family and you don't live right, he may slap you around. He may have to kill you, only to take you to heaven. Secondly, you got the option of winning the bonus prize of the 1,000 years, and that you get if you're persecuted or martyred for your faith. Thirdly, you got eternity in heaven, which is secure. You cannot possibly lose that. See, when the death angel came through in the book of Exodus, you know, the Passover, God said, Moses, tell the people to kill the lamb, put the blood on the doorpost. If the angel sees the blood, he's going to pass over that house. It doesn't matter what you're doing inside. He don't care. There's blood on the door. Pass over. So you don't have to be good to go to heaven. You have to be forgiven to go to heaven. None of us are good. So you have to be forgiven. So once you've accepted Christ, it's like you're stuck in God's family. And He's stuck with you, by the way. After I was born, my dad said, well, I'm stuck with this one. For the next 20 years, I got to feed him and house him and all that stuff, you know.
That's why they spank you right away.
Let's spank him right away. Get him, pay attention, boy. So once you get born into God, if you've truly trusted Christ, the devil, of course, is going to try to make you doubt that. Because if he can keep you doubting your own salvation, you won't want to share it with anybody else. Now, he can't, if you've been accepted Christ and you're saved, you're going to heaven, but if he can get you doubting that, he'll keep you from winning souls, because there are three phases to life. You get born because of what somebody else did, okay? You had nothing to do with that. You got a free gift. Then you grow. That takes a long time. A lot of lumps and bumps and, you know, eat and sleep and exercise. It takes a long time. Growing takes a long time. Then you reproduce. You make your own babies. So that's the three basic stages of life. You get born, you grow, and then you raise your own children. Start it over again. Well, it's the same in the Christian world. You get born because of what Jesus did. You get born again. Then you grow by reading the Word, and then you go win somebody else to the Lord. The most fun activity in the spiritual world is showing somebody else how to get saved and bringing them to the Lord. So, but if the devil can get you to doubt your own salvation, you'll never get to stage 3. And he knows that. He can't get you to go to hell. He's lost you. But he don't want you to help anybody else get out of his clutches and go to heaven. So Paul said, Jesus said, blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. That's the bonus prize, the 1,000 years. He's not saying you get to earn your way into heaven and live eternal life. That eternal life was a gift from, but if you're persecuted, you get the bonus prize of the 1,000 years. Well, verse 11, blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you and say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Whoa, I'm going to get that prize. Just type in Kent Hovind on a Google search. Your computer will explode. Before I went to prison, Paul, there were 2,000 anti-Hovind websites. It was hilarious. A whole bunch of anti-Hovind YouTube channels right now. Rejoice and be exceeding glad. Wait, what did he say? When men revile you and persecute you and say all manner of evil against you falsely, rejoice. Yay! Come on, guys. Keep heaping the criticism on. Keep it coming. Okay. For great is your reward in heaven. For so persecuted they the prophets which were before you. Ye are the salt of the earth. That's interesting. He didn't say you're the pepper or the tomatoes or the ketchup. Salt is amazing. Salt, sodium chloride, has, I could do a whole sermon just on salt, and we'll do it someday, but salt does some amazing things. Salt irritates. How many ever got some salt in a cut or a scratch, and it's like, oh, wow, it irritates?
I did it on purpose.
On purpose?
Yeah.
To kill the bacteria?
I don't know. I just want to feel some pain.
Just to see, you like to feel the pain. Okay. Where are you from? Where are you from? So,
It hurts so good.
it hurts so good. If we are the salt of the earth, somebody's probably going to get irritated about you. If you're not irritating anybody, you're not doing it right, okay? You don't have to try to irritate them. You just try to be salty. That will irritate them. Right? Salt irritates. Salt also flavors. It brings out the flavor. You ought to bring out the best in the people around you. After people have been around you, they'll say, man, I want to do something for God. I want to do more. Let's go. Come on, move. Get moving. A good sergeant knows how to motivate his men. You know, the enemy's attacking. Hey, guys, get up. Let's go. Move. Time to attack. So a good leader of anything, whether you're the leader of the family or the leader of a country, you ought to be able to motivate your people. Salt irritates. Salt brings out the best, brings out the flavor. Salt also preserves from corruption. Don't they put salt on things, like salt pork and things to preserve them from corruption? It kills bacteria. The way it does it is interesting. As soon as it gets on in the water, the sodium and chlorine molecules break away from each other. And since water is hydrogen, and two hydrogens and an oxygen, kind of like a Mickey Mouse face, I'll have to do pictures for all this. This came up spontaneously. But water molecule is two hydrogens and an oxygen. Well, it's slightly polarized because it's sharing an electron with the hydrogen and the oxygen. So one side of the molecule is slightly positive, one side is slightly negative. Who cares? Well, it's interesting. When the salt gets in the water, the salt, sodium and chlorine break apart, and the sodium is slightly positive. It was sharing an electron with the chlorine, but now it's not anymore. So the sodium side is slightly positive, so it attracts a whole bunch of water molecules around it. Just, they cluster around it like bees, you know, on a flower. And it's all with the negative side facing in on the water molecule. The chlorine is negative, so it attracts a bunch of water molecules flipped over, backwards, because the positive side is attracted to them. So either way, both the sodium and the chlorine are attracting the water, tying it up where it can't do anything. So when bacteria comes near salt, all the water in the bacteria is attracted over to the sodium or the chlorine, either one, and the bacteria dries up. It kills it by attracting all the water out of it. Whoa, I bet there's a sermon in there someplace. Yeah, we'll do a whole sermon just on salt sometime when my brother straightens up. But he's a hunchback, so it might be a while. Okay. My other brother is a contortionist, and he married a fortune teller, and they have a child that can foresee his own end. That's limber. Okay. Never mind. Okay. He said, "Ye are the salt of the earth." Did you get it? Oh, yay. Okay. I thought it was blonde hair. I thought I might have to explain it to you. You're the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost his savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot of men. So Jesus is telling them in Matthew 5, you're going to be persecuted if you live right. They're going to hate you. You're the salt. You're going to irritate people. But the salt is used to preserve. We ought to be preserving our community, preserving our state. Every Christian should have a preserving influence on whoever's around them. Is your neighborhood a better place because you live there? Are you helping to preserve the city, the county, the state, the country, the world? Are you salt? If you've lost your saltiness, you're good for nothing. Then he said, "Ye are the light of the world." Now light is interesting. You can study light the rest of your life and never get it all. Nobody knows for sure what light is. We know what it does, and we can split it up into colors and bend it and reflect it and refract it and all that. We got all kinds of science experiments in our science center, Dan, about light. And day one, God said, "Let there be light." Light is amazing. But light, a city that's set on a hill cannot be hid. In John chapter 3, right after John 3:16, probably the most memorized verse in the Bible, this is the condemnation, that light is come into the world, and men love darkness rather than light because their deeds were evil. Are there more crimes committed in the dark at night, or where nobody can see them? Or why do people try to hide from being caught?
They don't get recognized.
They don't want the light. For everyone that doeth evil hateth the light, neither cometh to the light, lest his deed should be reproved. He that doth truth cometh to the light, that his deeds may be made manifest, for they are wrought of God. So remember, Jesus said, you're the light of the world. What's that mean? Well, that means the people that love darkness are going to hate you. So if the atheists and the morons who believe they came from a rock, if they don't hate you, you're doing something wrong. I don't try to make them hate me. I'm the nicest guy I've ever met. But they will hate you if you just shine the light. That'll shut the light off. Okay. So when I point out to the atheists, you really do believe you came from a rock dissolved in water, don't you? That angers them. But I show them right from their books, that's what they believe, and they don't see it. Like, okay, your book says you came from a rock. Yeah, it does. And they get mad about it. And you believe you're related to a mosquito. Okay. And so they hate me because I'm simply shining the light on how stupid their religion is, right? And it is stupid. Of course, they think they're smart. I understand. They're highly educated idiots. I mean, you got to give them credit for that, you know. Back to Acts 23. So Paul said, the guy said, smack him on the mouth. Then Paul said to him, God shall smite thee, thou whited wall. That must be some old insult they had back 2,000 years ago, like, you know, probably have different insults today. For sittest thou to judge me after the law, and commandest me to be smitten contrary to the law? And they that stood by said, revilest thou God's high priest? Yeah. Then said Paul, I wist not. That means I didn't know. Old English, I wist not. Brethren, that he was the high priest, for it is written, thou shalt not speak evil of the ruler of thy people. But when Paul perceived that the one part were Sadducees, now the Sadducees was a group of Jews who did not believe in the resurrection. When you die, that's it, you're worm food. So since they did not believe they had afterlife, they're sad, you see. That's how you memorize it, okay. This has nothing to do with it, that's a joke, never mind. So the Sadducees did not believe in the resurrection. And the other were Pharisees. They're the guys that had their nose in the air, and anybody that doesn't obey exactly, doesn't dress exactly like they say and cut your hair like they say, and they got all their list of rules, and if you don't do what they say, you're no good, okay? So they were the hyper holier than thou folks. So Paul perceived that some were Sadducees and some were Pharisees. Of course, they're all against him. He cried out in the council, men and brethren, I'm a Pharisee, the son of a Pharisee. Of the hope and resurrection of the dead, I'm called in question. Keep in mind, the Sadducees don't believe in the resurrection. So he said, you guys got me here on trial because I believe in the resurrection. Which is not really where they had him on trial, but there's another long story there. He's trying to get out of a beating and getting killed, okay? He said, I'm here because I believe in the resurrection. And when he had so said, there arose a dissension between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, which of course is what he's trying to accomplish. Divide them up.
Well, actually, Jesus says, I am the resurrection, so he's saying it right.
And the multitude was divided, for the Sadducees say there is no resurrection, neither angel nor spirit, but the Pharisees confess both. It's amazing how these two different groups can argue about this kind of stuff when they're with each other, but as soon as they get a common enemy like Paul, they all go after him like mosquitoes. I see that all the time. The atheists argue with each other over little things until Kent Hovind comes along. Boy, then they unite and go against me. Come on, guys. Bring it on. Okay, verse 9. And there arose a great cry, and the scribes that were of the Pharisees' part arose and strove, saying, we find no evil in this man. But if an angel or if a spirit or an angel has spoken to him, let us not fight against God. So Paul's dividing them up and getting half of them on his side. Smart move, Paul. And when there arose a great dissension, so the big argument going on, the chief captain, fearing lest Paul should have been pulled in pieces of them, commanded the soldiers to go down and to take him by force from among them and to bring him into the castle. And the night following, the Lord stood by him and said, be of good cheer, Paul. Now keep in mind, God had warned Paul not to go to Jerusalem. Remember the guy took Paul's girdle and tied himself up and said, this is what's going to happen to you, Paul. God told me to tell you, don't go. Paul said, I'm going anyway. How many of you have ever been bullheaded and stubborn and gone someplace where you probably shouldn't have gone and been there, okay? But God's, even if you do something dumb, God can say, God, I'm sorry, I should, okay, he'll still use you. He's using Paul's mistake going to Jerusalem. He's going to watch over him. I've made plenty of mistakes. Say, Lord, that was dumb, wasn't it? Yes, son, that was dumb, but come on, let's go this way, we can fix it. For as thou hast testified me in Jerusalem, so must thou bear witness also at Rome. Paul probably never would have made it to Rome if it hadn't been for him being arrested and being hauled. Now he's got to go to federal court. That's what it amounts to. He's going to Rome because the Romans got him in there and the Jews are fighting over him. So what's the Roman soldier going to do? Send him to his boss. So because of Paul's stubbornness and wanting to go on to Jerusalem, God's going to use that to get the gospel into the city of Rome, the capital of the world at that time, you know, the Roman Empire. And when it was day, certain of the Jews banded together and bound themselves under a curse, saying that they would neither eat nor drink till they had killed Paul. I would say they don't like him. They get together and say, guys, until we kill Paul, nobody take a drink, nobody eat anything. How long would you last?
Maybe they don't like eating and drinking.
Could be. And there were more than 40 which had made this conspiracy. And they came to the chief priests and elders and said, we have bound ourselves under a great curse that we will eat nothing till we have slain Paul. Now therefore, ye with the council signify to the chief captain that he bring him down unto you tomorrow, as though ye would inquire something more perfectly concerning him. They're saying, tell the captain we need to ask him a few more questions, bring him down. It's all a setup to kill him.
They must have got thirsty between verses 12 and 13, or 14.
Because they cut that out?
Yeah, they didn't mention the not drink anything in verse 14.
Oh yeah,
Well, they said they were going to eat or drink.
12 were not going to eat or drink, and here they said we're just not going to eat. Oh, it must have got thirsty. They said, bring him down so we can ask him a few more questions. And we, or ever he come near, are ready to kill him. So this is a setup, okay? And when Paul's sister's son heard of their lying in wait. Now, it doesn't mention anything in the Bible other than this about Paul's sister. The Catholics say Peter went to Rome and he's the first pope. There is no indication Peter ever went to Rome. And they say Peter was the first pope. Well, it doesn't mention, it says, it never mentions Peter's wife in the Bible, but Peter was married because it mentions Peter's wife's mother was sick. So my preacher said a man would be a fool to have a mother-in-law without having a wife. And I can agree with that, okay? So it does mention Peter's wife's mother. Oh, never mind. Okay. When Paul's sister's son heard of their lying in wait, he went and entered into this castle and told Paul. So this young boy goes in and says, hey, Uncle Paul, they're going to try to kill you. I heard about this conspiracy. They're going to lie in wait. They're going to call you down for more questions. Then Paul called one of the centurions, which is somebody with 100 soldiers under him. Well, in the military, what level, what rank would have about 100 men under him? Would that be a captain? Okay. And said, bring this young man unto the chief captain, for he hath a certain thing to tell him. And he took him and brought him to the chief captain and said, Paul the prisoner called me unto him, and prayed me to bring this young man unto thee, who hath something to say unto thee. Then the chief captain took him by the hand, so I suspect he's a little boy, maybe 5, 6, 7 years old.
We hope.
Huh?
We hope.
Yeah.
It'd be awkward otherwise.
Took him by the hand and went with him aside privately and asked him, what is it that thou hast to tell me? And he said, the Jews have agreed to desire thee that thou wouldst bring down Paul tomorrow to the council, as though they would inquire somewhat of him more perfectly. But do not thou yield unto them, for there lie in wait for him of them more than 40 men, which have bound themselves with an oath, that they will neither eat nor drink till they have killed him. And now are they ready, looking for a promise from thee. So this young boy's telling the guy what's going to happen. They're looking for a promise from you to bring Paul down, and 40 of them are going to jump out of the bushes and kill him. So the chief captain let the young man depart and charged him. That means he commanded him, see thou tell no man that thou hast showed these things to me. Don't tell anybody that you said this. And he called unto him 2 centurions, saying, make ready 200 soldiers to go to Caesarea, and 360 and horsemen 70. A score is 20, so 60 would be 60. So there's going to be 70 horsemen and 200 men to guard one preacher. Hilarious. At the 3rd hour of the night. So that would be like 9 o'clock at night you're going to leave, because they figure 6 o'clock, you know, when it gets dark. So at 9 o'clock, take off with your army. And provide them beasts that they may set Paul on, so a donkey or a horse, and bring him safe unto Felix the governor. So from Jerusalem to Caesarea today with a modern highway system is 75 miles. How long does it take to go 75 miles over the mountains on a horse?
For you or for normal drivers?
For normal drivers. And he's got 200 guys walking on foot. And he wrote a letter after this manner, Claudius Lysias, unto the most excellent governor Felix. You got to butter up your boss, you know, so hopefully get a raise or something. Sendeth greeting. This man was taken of the Jews and should have been killed of them. Then came I, watch how many times he tries to get, with an army and rescued him, having understood that he was a Roman. Oh, I saved a Roman citizen. You know, give me what he's secretly saying is, would you give me a promotion? I need a raise and a vacation and, you know, and a new chariot. Okay. And when I would have known the cause wherefore they accused him, I brought him forth to their council, whom I perceive to be accused of questions of their law, but to have nothing laid to his charge worthy of death or of bonds. He said, they're fighting over a bunch of Jewish stuff. It doesn't matter. And when it was told me how the Jews laid wait for the man, I sent straightway to thee, and gave commandment to his accusers also, to say before thee what they had against him. Farewell. Then the soldiers, as it was commanded them, took Paul and brought him by night to Antipatris. So they didn't go all the way, 75 miles. That's too far to go. On the morrow, they left the horsemen to go with him and returned to the castle. So the 200 men plus 70 horsemen took him from Jerusalem to Antipatris, which is about 38 miles today with their modern highway system, which they did not have back then. Who, when they came to Caesarea and delivered the epistle to the governor, presented Paul also before him. And when the governor had read the letter, he asked of what province he was, and when he understood he was of Cilicia, he said, I will hear thee, said he, when thine accusers are come. Remember, these guys that aren't going to eat or drink have now got to walk 75 miles over the mountains. I bet they're going to be thirsty and hungry by the time.
Marching on an empty stomach.
And he commanded him to be kept in Herod's judgment hall. So Paul is now down at Caesarea. Let's see, there's a back up here. So they made it this far the first night right here, and then went the rest of the way up to Caesarea. All right, that's Acts chapter 23. So Paul is now still locked up, being transported all over the federal prison system. I've been there, man. Any questions so far? Acts 23, that's the end. All right, was there going to be a baby dedication tonight? Did they bring the baby? I thought they were going to. Born 3 weeks ago. Did you see that little thing?
A little goat?
They start, no, the new baby.
Oh. No, they left. I mean,
Okay. I forgot they came that small. Yeah. You got, when's yours due?
In like 3 weeks.
In 3 weeks. Okay. So this guy was in the military. He had to go overseas, and his wife was going to have a baby. And he asked his brother, he said, would you please take her to the hospital because I'm going to be over in Iraq. And you can name the child. So the brother took the woman to the hospital, had the baby, you know, his sister-in-law. And then the guy from Iraq called back and said, hey, what did I have? He said, well, you had a baby girl. He said, well, what'd you name it? He said, Denise. He said, what would you have called it if it was a boy? He said, the nephew, of course. Okay, see you tomorrow. Bye.